Once upon a time, it was your typical day in the mid-90s. Nothing weird, not even a little bit. When out of nowhere, Bruce Artwick created what some believe to be the greatest game of all time. Microsoft Flight Simulator 5.1. Released in 1995, this expansion of MSFS 5.0 added true-to-life effects like new weather elements such as fog. It even improved the performance and speed over its predecessor. Journalists the world over just couldn't get enough of this. But what's so important about this one? Well, Microsoft Flight Simulator 5.1 was the first game in the series to be released on a CD-ROM and the last to be released for MS-DOS. Out with the old, in with the new. Innovation is in front of you, not behind you. And while Microsoft assigned Bruce Artwick to work on the game that would phase out the MS-DOS gaming scene, Nintendo had just allowed Phillips Interactive Media to publish a game that would become the first Nintendo game on a CD-ROM for console, and the earliest Nintendo CD-ROM game with a known release date. Hotel Mario, 1994's Game of the Year. Hotel Mario was the first of 4 Nintendo games for the Phillips CD-i and arguably the best. Which isn't impressive, by the way, so don't take that as some kind of praise. In my life, I've seen so many people talk about this game. So many YouTube poops.
That's not a Pokemon, that's a gay Luigi.
Everyone's seen those famous cutscenes.
All toasters, toast toast.
Which weirdly enough was what reviewers praised this game for. But I've never actually played it, so is it good, you may be asking yourself? Well, I happen to own this game, and lucky for you, I still have 3 hours of community service left from that DUI I got after playing Gang Beasts. So why not spend it doing the world a favor and playing Phillips Fantasy Factory's, biggest success. Here we go. Now, every dog needs a bone, and every Hotel Mario needs a Phillips CD-i. There's so many different CD-i models, they just couldn't make up their fucking minds. I have the CD-i 220. As you can see, whoever the fuck bought this back in the day got it from PC Richard & Sons. They got it back in 1993. They must have been so excited. Could you imagine? Why did they have to mark it? Could they not take it with them when they bought it? Did they order it over the phone? Maybe it was mailed to them. And on that note, this model was $700 when it came out. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $1,500 USD today. And that's actually less than the $1,000 the original model cost in 1990. That's fucking insane. Could you imagine paying $1,500, let alone $700 for this piece of shit? All that money to access a library of a couple hundred games that include classics such as A Visit to Sesame Street, Letters, Mother Goose, Rhymes to Color, Richard Scarry's Best Neighborhood Disc Ever, Richard Scarry's Busiest Neighborhood Disc Ever, and Pinball. You'd be out of your fucking mind. You would go home and show the receipt to your wife and she'd murder you. Like you spent $1,500 fucking dollars on a VCR that doesn't have VHS support. But it says here on the box that it comes with Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia, which is a $300 value. Sure. Hey guys, look, I'm holding $300 worth of matter in my hand. My asshole is a better $300 value. Now you can interact with Philip. The CD-i comes with what's called the thumbstick controller. It's an IR remote that looks like it came with a cable box. I could see how this would be good for navigating menus, but playing a game with this, that seems like a sin. The first thing I can tell you right off the bat is that whoever designed this is brain dead, and whoever let this out on the market probably didn't have hands. This joystick predates the joysticks we know and love that became commonplace in 1996 with the N64, but that's no excuse for the dumb design they used. My first issue that's immediately noticeable is the fact that the joystick spins around, and it's not a control input, it just spins around when you twist it. It's like they forgot to glue the plastic down. This gets really annoying when you're trying to do something and your thumb is constantly slipping off the joystick. There is literally no scenario where this isn't annoying. It's always an issue. Even if you're using software that just requires you to press buttons, at the very least you need to navigate through the CD-i menu, so it's impossible to not get railed by this thing. I actually can't believe they put it out like this. It's beyond terrible. It's putrid. The CD-i has 2 controller inputs, but since this uses IR, you don't need to plug it in. It uses batteries. But that just raises another issue. If you don't have any other controllers and you have to play a game with this one, you have my deepest apologies because in the heat of a game, it's not uncommon to accidentally aim your controller too far from the console and get yourself killed. I just don't understand on what planet is this console worth $719.91. You're better off killing yourself. But before I do that, let's check out the crown jewel of licensed garbage, Hotel Mario. I don't even have to comment. The animation, the voice acting, it's all so goofy. It's incredible that Nintendo gave this a green light, let alone a group of devs, let alone a single person.
I hope she made lots of spaghetti.
If you need instructions on how to get through the hotels, check out the enclosed instruction book.
Okay, here we are. Welcome to the wacky world of Hotel Mario. Bowser kidnapped the princess, and for some reason we have to fight our way through hotels to get her back. That's such a great story. So, what the fuck is this game? Your goal on each stage is to close all the doors before time runs out. All the while shit-eating asshats reopen doors and make your life a living hell. Wikipedia says this is a puzzle strategy game, but I don't really think it's either. I don't know what this game is. Naturally, you would assume it's a puzzle game, but as you'll see, calling this a puzzle game is like calling Major Nelson a respected drug dealer. It just doesn't add up. We get a few choices, 1 player or 2 player. That's right, Hotel Mario is a 2-player game. It makes for a great way to torture 2 people at once. Other than that, we can check out the high scores, or even more fun, watch a gameplay demo, which you're seeing right now. There's a couple variations. But let's hop in.
Looks kinda peaceful. Looks deceiving.
So, our first hotel is a tree. The Wood Door Hysteria Hotel. What the fuck kind of name is that? Press button 1 to begin. Okay, we gotta talk about these controls. To play, you're only gonna use the top half of the controller, but look at this. Action button, action button. Which of these 4 buttons do you think is button 1? Well, it's the top 2 buttons. It's denoted by the top buttons having 1 dot next to them and the bottom ones having 2 dots. You know how in a normal game, how it'll say something like press the A button and then you press the button with the A on it? Were the designers of this console fish? What kind of decision was that? Welcome. When you spawn, you start inside of an elevator. You have to press down to get out. Button 1 jumps, and button 2 closes and opens doors. Like I said before, you have to close all the doors on the screen to beat the stage. But enemies can reopen doors and new ones can even pop out of them. You gotta use elevators to go up and down floors, but doing that is such a fucking idea. The arrows on the elevators point to which direction they'll take you, so up is up and down is down. But assigning the action of using an elevator to up on the control stick is such a confusing mess because when you arrive on the next floor, you have to press down to leave it. So sometimes you press up to enter the down door and down to leave the up door, while other times you press down to leave the down door and up to enter the up door. How intuitive. I get that up to enter doors and down to leave them makes sense, but when you first play, seeing all these arrows just confuses you and it takes some time to get used to. You don't need to kill all the enemies to beat the level, and once you close all the doors, any enemies left just die on the spot. You have a score and any leftover time gets tossed into the point pool. There's 7 worlds and each world has 10 levels. The more you play, you see new enemies and obstacles, and you can always hide inside doors or elevators to avoid them while they pass by. It's a good failsafe in case you get stuck between baddies. Well, I can't stand this controller. It's awful playing like this. Is there something I'm missing? Well, let's check the box. Look at this art. The cover shows a slightly larger image than the jewel case. They got the Mario design down well, but what the hell is going on here? The Goomba, the Koopa, and the Boo are all just pissed. And one of them is just Elvis. Boy, an original Mario Brothers game available only on the CD-i. Bowser has taken over the Mushroom Kingdom. Only you and Mario can free the princess. You'll combat Koopas, Goombas, and other nefarious nasties. Full motion, full screen animation, original music, CD quality audio and sound effects. Touchpad controller recommended. Touchpad controller. The touchpad controller, the Joe Schmo of CD-i controllers. It looks like a Super Nintendo controller, but they chopped it in half and flipped the left side. There's no bumpers and there's 2 switches on the top and bottom. Both of them control the speed. What does that mean? Well, as far as my knowledge, it just changes the speed of your cursor, or in Hotel Mario's case, the character. This way, if you're playing a supported game, you can adjust how fast whatever you're controlling goes. The manuals don't even explain this either. They're so unhelpful. There's one on the top and bottom. This and many other CD-i controllers, including the thumbstick controller, were designed to accommodate players diagnosed with left-handedness, which is a nice thought for us lefties, but what kind of freak uses a D-pad with their right thumb? Speaking of the D-pad, here is the nub. The nub screws onto the D-pad and makes it some kind of gross joystick. The only joy you're gonna get out of this stick is by sitting on it, because this makes for one of the most stiff and stupid ways to control something. And storing this thing in the box is a nightmare. There's this huge chode gap, and if you push it in too much, good luck getting it out without ripping the foam. The last thing I want to mention is the Albert Einstein level button design. Look at this shit. First of all, these buttons don't protrude at all from the surface level of the controller, so holding down one button while pressing another like in, oh I don't know, a Mario game is not possible, or at the very least comfortable. And do I even need to say anything about these buttons? Look at this. You've got dot on the top and bottom, dot dot to the right, and to the left we have dot slash dot dot. What kind of Morse code shit is this? If you guessed that pressing the dot slash dot dot button was equivalent to pressing the dot and dot dot buttons at the same time, you'd be right. But let me ask you something. Why are there 4 buttons when there's really only 2? Couldn't they just have made 4 unique buttons? And don't tell me that it's because they wanted to keep the controls parallel for both lefties and righties. If they wanted this controller to be accessible for both lefties and righties, maybe they should have worked on making it comprehensible for a normal human first. Fuck this controller, what else we got? The gamepad. The gamepad is similar to a Sega Genesis controller, and the layout is much more attractive than anything else I've seen so far. There's no removable D-pad joystick thing, and there's 3 buttons lined up, and none repeat. I like this one. The D-pad's a bit mushy and so are the buttons, but honestly, it's not too bad. The buttons are labeled like the touchpad, but they aren't painted on, they're just part of the plastic, so they blend in, which can suck in the middle of a game when you have to look down to see which button you're pressing, and even with this little bump here. We've gone from Morse code to Braille. It also has the 1+2 button, which, if you were wondering, does get used, you'll see later on. But why map an action to 2 buttons at once instead of just one unique button entirely? Especially when you're going to have a unique button for that unique control. It just seems like some unnecessary controller continuity that ends up confusing the player. The speed switch is also on this one, but this time there's 3 speeds, which there goes the button continuity right out the window. Like they can't make up their fucking minds. It's confusing and inconsistent. It says here on the box that it has great control, faster reaction speeds, 3 unique speed settings, ergonomic design, and high quality / durable construction. This thing feels like air. Well, I think I'm gonna go with the gamepad. It seems like the less shitty option. Let's see. So during a level, you'll see some stuff other than enemies. Sometimes coins pop out of open doors. There's regular coins, and then there's the rainbow coins. Regular coins are worth 1 coin and 100 points, and rainbow coins are worth 10 coins and 1,000 points. There's no point to the points besides showing off your score on the leaderboard. If you get 30 coins, you get a 1-up, which isn't even... Sure. Power-ups are a staple of the Mario series, and they play a role in this game too. Mushrooms are hidden inside doors and pop out when they're opened. This can suck dick sometimes because enemies open doors at random. So if an enemy randomly opens a door with a mushroom in it and you're in a tough spot, sorry, you're fucked. You just gotta hope that either you find the mushroom first or an enemy finds it while you're in a good position. Luckily though, the power-ups are always in the same door per level, so if it's not your first time playing, you can plan your route better and pay attention to enemies more strategically. I don't know why Mario glows purple when he gets a mushroom though. To be completely honest, what I've played so far is pretty fun, but let me introduce you to the very beginning of this game's bullshit. The enemies. The first few levels, it's nothing crazy, just Goombas. But then you start to see Koopas, and it's just the same thing. You stomp them. What the fuck is this? That's not what Koopas do. What's the point of having 2 enemies that do the exact same thing? Usually the annoyingness comes from jumping into them from underneath. But it's not necessarily the enemies themselves that are bullshit, it's the enemy patterns. This game loves patterns. The enemies come in waves and they're all set on rails that go off depending on where you are and how long you've been playing since you killed your last enemy. The first enemy you encounter with a new weakness is Wigglers. To defeat them, you jump on their head. They lose one of their torsos, rinse and repeat until he's dead. But lo and behold, he immediately respawns, which causes an issue because the Wigglers have a high chance of reopening doors. So I kill the one on the 4th floor and then go back down, and then that one immediately respawns too. What kind of fuck you shit is that? Look at this. So after I kill the Wiggler for the 2nd time, he doesn't respawn. So to me, this tells me that Wigglers spawn twice, and then stop. Which is just annoying because I have to wait in between their births. And if I go elsewhere in the meantime, I'll have to go back to the Wiggler floor anyway because that Wiggler will open doors. So if there's multiple Wigglers in a single level, get ready to wait and play longer than you should have to. It's Wiggler fucking Wednesday. I know that might sound like a minor issue, but I promise you, stay fucking tuned because that is the minorest of all issues. And if you die while putting up with this issue, then get ready to wait all over again. And it doesn't help that there's frequent audio glitches that make the hit sound effect not play. You may think that wouldn't matter too much, but because of the difference between regular Mario and Super Mario is so unnoticeable, you will get your run unexpectedly cut short. Speaking of audio, that is something I have to give this game. The audio quality is really good and definitely still holds up today. Weirdly though, the voice clips during gameplay sound higher quality than the ones in the cutscenes.
Gotta be quick.
We gotta talk about these platforms. What the fuck here is floor? By the time you beat this world, you'll know that the layout of every level in the game is the exact same. They're all just straight lines, one on top of another. But my first time playing, I was unsure how much of this level is floor. Like, look at this. Is this a floor? It looks like there's a gap in the floor. Why is it drawn like this? It looks like there's a hole in the floor. As far as the music goes, it's about 30 feet. It's nothing crazy, but some of the tunes are pretty catchy, and I'd go as far as saying that 3 or 4 of them are pretty memorable. Each stage has 3 variations of that hotel's theme, and it's pretty fun your first time going through to hear all the different versions. Anyway, at stage 10 we fight our first boss, Morton. What? Well, you die if all the doors are open. How cool is that the only door closed is right in front of Morton as soon as the game starts, so you have 3 fucking seconds to react before you get railed by him. Really great level design. So Morton is pretty quick, and unlike the other enemies, he can use elevators to go up and down to different floors. What just happened? This game loves throwing random, unexplained shit into the mix and confusing the piss out of you. Let me explain. So, in the boss of each hotel, you usually get a teaser of the gimmick of the next hotel. So here, whenever you hear the bell ring, all the elevators between the top and bottom floors switch vice versa. This gimmick will be featured in the next hotel, but here we're just being introduced to it. Well, that's terrific, that the bell can ring while you're in the animation of entering the elevator, so I have no chance of avoiding it. You'll just be playing as normal, and then suddenly the bell rings, but your brain needs at least a second to react, so you end up just wasting time and sometimes killing yourself. It's a fucking nightmare, and you'll never get this down pat. The best thing to do is to wait by the wrong door if you think it's gonna go off, and then enter to go to where you want to be. This could have been fine if they gave it a few beeps before it changes, kinda like the beep blocks in Super Mario 3D World. You can jump on Morton twice to knock him out for a few seconds, but that's about it. Nothing crazy here. You kill him, you get another piece of art animation, and onward.
How are we gonna find the princess with the power going out?
Maybe there's a switch in one of the rooms. Remind me to check.
Before I get into the rest of the hotels, I've explained the basics of the game, and as you progress, you run into new gimmicks and enemies. The game does not explain to you how things work. You grow a set of balls and you figure it out yourself. This game would rather you die of a heart attack than give valid instructions to game mechanics. It's very old-fashioned, but shouldn't be. It came out in 1994, not 1987. Fuck. So, as I mentioned, now the elevators switch around every time the ding goes off. Oh, and the lights flicker for a second. What a dumb fucking gimmick. And for this level, we're gonna make it so the screen goes black for a second. What genius came up with that? Super Mario World is lizard shit compared to this. Donut planes? Pfft. Hell no. World 2, Stage 1, Hotel Mario. The lights only turn off within the line, so if you jump above the top floor, it just cuts off. Some floors have windows, so the lights don't get shut off there. These ninjas are a pain in the dick. You can't run underneath them, and they'll always jump towards you if you're on the same floor as them. Real quick, I want to mention something also. Every so often, I forget what button does what and end up pressing the wrong thing. Like here, I meant to close the door, but I jump instead. This is not a one-time thing. This has been constantly happening and is a big issue. Because there are so many actions that are mapped like shit, I'm never able to get used to this. Remember before when I talked about the confusion with entering and leaving elevators with up and down arrows? Well, I'd like to throw in that when you press up, you automatically go to the said floor, and then sit inside until you press down. But if while you're sitting in the elevator, you press button 1, you'll go back in the elevator to the previous floor. So in total, that's 3 different commands you can use while moving 1 floor. For a controller with 2 different buttons, that's ridiculous. Pressing the wrong button while trying to close a door or jump is a common fuck up and will pain you throughout your entire playthrough. There is no getting around it, and I can only credit the bullshit controller layout for that. Although mushrooms are always hidden indoors, sometimes you just get one for no reason. Here I got it from jumping on an enemy in the specific spot. There never seems to be a rhyme or reason, and these ninjas have the same issue that the Wigglers do. They have a set number of times they pop out at any given door, so you'll always be wasting your time if you try to keep playing instead of just standing next to the door waiting for the next one to pop out. I should also mention that in this hotel, I can jump against the walls, but in some others I die if I jump too far. Welcome to the next wave of bullshit, bob-ombs. So bob-ombs float down and walk around for a bit before blowing up, and when they blow up they have a little radius of explosion that can kill you, like if you're right above or below it for example. They can even set off chain reactions. But what's great about them is that there's no warning whatsoever that they're gonna drop. So if you're on the top floor, you just have no chance of living if they spawn above you. So you just have to wait and pray that you have good timing. Earlier, I talked about the mushroom, but let's talk about the fire flower. This is where that dot/dot button comes into play. If you find a power-up while you're already super, you'll become Fire Mario. Fire Mario can shoot up to 2 fireballs at once. Because the frame rate of these fireballs is so dog shit, it's hard to keep track of them sometimes. Like, the frame rate of the enemies and fireballs are both shit, but in their own ways, so it ends up feeling like a brain aneurysm. They also kill things they normally shouldn't. The fire flower is insanely useful though. It kills literally every enemy and can make the game go from ridiculously hard to a cakewalk. You want to keep this thing as long as you can. The boss here is crazy easy. Roy's a fucking idiot. With Roy dead, we move on to Larry. I'm enjoying this game to some extent, but there's just so much poorly designed garbage that's dragging it down. It makes me wonder if the devs have any clue how to make an actual balanced video game.
No.
This title screen looks like they fucked up one of the layers. Why does this ray of light start a quarter into the image? So the gimmick here is that the only floor that's fully lit is the one you're on. Okay, did they pull this one out of a hat? So now it's harder to see the other floors. Well, it actually is. The further in you get, the darker the other floors become. It actually gets a bit annoying because by the time you get to level 6, it becomes a big problem. You'll jump, you'll go in an elevator, and out of nowhere, you'll get railed by an enemy. The Monty Moles are the worst. They run around and jump back and forth, and these spinies climb on the ceiling so you can't walk past them. You have to slide under them. You could slide in this game? No, you can't, not usually, but in this hotel the floor is slippery, so if you duck while running, you slide. Yeah, you heard me. The floor is slippery. Welcome to a whole new nightmarescape. Try avoiding enemies from above you can barely see when you can barely fucking control yourself. It's like ice skating with your dick. Jumping into enemies is the worst, and it's so hard to see what's going on, so I'm sitting here like an idiot with my face pressed up against the fucking screen trying to tell where the spiny and 40 other enemies are by watching dark pixels move. You know what else fucking sucks? Walking into a door as an enemy pops out of it. This is some fucking horse shit. I have no chance here, just bad luck. This is an issue that plagues you the entire game and always results in some premature deaths, but sucks even harder in this hotel because of the slipperiness. You could see the door opening but still slide into them. Speaking of the slipperiness, I want to complain about something. You can't fucking control yourself while sliding. It doesn't matter how long you've been running for, you'll always slide the same distance. If you jump while moving, you can't control your momentum in the air like you can normally. It causes so many fucking deaths. It sucks so much ass. It was here that I got my first game over, and when you die, guess what? Nothing. You don't go back to the start of the hotel or anything like that. Your points just get set back to 0. So if you want an impressive score, you gotta beat the game without dying. The thought of someone playing this game without dying makes me sick to my fucking stomach. Look at this shit. Level 7 must have taken me like 45 minutes. I can't see shit. Level 8 is where it gets ridiculous. The enemies are like one hue brighter than black. It's like the darkest the CDI can make the sprites while still being any amount visible. Level 9 is great. Look at this shit. You can only see the floor you're on. This is how game designers go to hell. If I jump, how do I know I'll be fine? The answer is I won't. It's just complete, undisputable luck now. I was at it for like half an hour when all of a sudden the lights all turned back on. So one of the Koopas dropped a candle and now all the lights are back on. What? What even is there to say about that? Do I have to say something? No. Whatever, I'm used to this game giving me such shit that I don't even care anymore. Sure, level 9 I got a random drop that gets rid of the gimmick. Okay. Now, this level's not too bad. This whole time there was a Starman that was jumping around up top I never knew about. If you get the Starman, you're invincible for like 15 seconds. There's no music and you just sparkle. That can suck when you don't know how much longer you have and you run into an enemy. Larry is mostly easy, but he throws these bowling balls at you, which shouldn't be hard to avoid, but they blend in with the background so you can barely fucking see them. Look at this shit, and the low frame rates make it so much worse. It took me a bit, but it wasn't too bad.
Get ready to catch her. It's hard to see through those clouds. I hope we can get rid of them. Get the hint?
What? The 4th hotel has this goofy-ass cloud that floats around. It doesn't hurt you, and it doesn't do anything. It's just meant to annoy you, which is terrific. Other than that, this hotel really isn't that bad. It's like they were out of order. This should have been like the 2nd hotel. The Paragoombas can be a bit annoying, but they're not too bad. But what's the bullshit here? No hotel is complete without bullshit. On stage 3, you get introduced to the cheapest fuck you thus far. Bullet bills, or as the manual calls them, bonsai bills, which they're not. These fuckers just shoot out of nowhere and fly across the screen. There's no warning, and later in the hotel, if you're anywhere but the center of the screen, you're just dancing with death. You can jump on them though, and if they hit you from below, they just die. It's honestly not too hard to dodge them, but it's dodging them while not jumping into another enemy that can be hard. Then you have the Paracoopas. They just fly all over the screen like a DVD logo. They suck ass, and there can sometimes be up to 5 of them on screen at a time. And just to add to the shit pile, bob-ombs, because why not? This is where them falling from the sky is at its worst. I need to close this door, but to do that, I need to run all the way there and all the way back without having one of these cunts spawn right on top of me or in front of me. And even then, that's assuming one doesn't land on the top floor and then open it again. I can't tell if I should deal with this door first or last. This is such a mess. Lemmy is crazy easy. He just flies around shooting paper airplanes. It's weird that they don't put enemies on boss levels. It's like they forgot. Some of these bosses are easier to deal with than some of the enemies I've seen so far. The only annoyance in this hotel is the elevators aren't labeled anymore, so you have to keep track of them. This gimmick sticks around the rest of the game. So Lemmy's dead, and we have Princess Toadstool. Oh, no we don't. She evaporated.
It's been one of those days.
Whoa.
So by that animation, you may be able to tell what the gimmick here is. Ludwig's Thump Castle Hotel is number 5, and as you may have guessed, the doors disappear and reappear at random. The new baddies here are Dry Bones and Booze. The Booze don't hurt you when they're transparent, and just like in regular Mario games, the Dry Bones reanimate after a few seconds. Or no, I'm sorry, Skeleton Koopas. Let's talk about the disappearing doors. You know what's fucking annoying? When you can't beat a level until a door reappears. You see, a door disappears when a boo decides to be an asshole, but if that door was open, it'll still count as open when it reappears, so there might be a time that you can't beat a level until the door reappears so you can close it. But by then, some other door may have reopened, so you'll have to go close that one too. It's a nightmare. Then there's these big boos who just suck. Nothing much else to say besides they suck. You could be so close, but because they're slow as shit, you'll get fucked. They just suck ass. You either get lucky or you don't. Let me introduce you to an enemy that will be a fucking nightmare for the rest of the game. Pat the Bat. These shits fly up from the bottom, opening doors on their way up. And with the elevators no longer labeled, getting back to all the floors with open doors is such a hassle and never easy. Later levels are fucking hell with them. They respawn over and over again and they keep going up and down, opening doors. It's such a pain and it's like a shot to the balls when you accidentally run into one. When I was going around trying to close all the doors they reopened, I was spamming button 2 because I just want to run past them. But then I just ran into a door that didn't exist. What the fuck? What kind of secret is that?
Maybe this'll keep that Lizard King from playing with the doors.
How would I have known to do that? That was just complete luck. When before in this game have I been taught to press button 2 on empty spots in the wall? And now there's no more boos. Well, that makes this a bit easier, but what a weird hidden secret. At least now the doors won't disappear. This game knows when it's bullshit. Why not an entire level where the only enemies are Pat the Bats? And then how about another one with only boos? Sure, why not? Ludwig's not too hard. He teleports around and zaps you. He does a pretty shit job at reopening doors. What an asshole. So, with Ludwig dead, the castle crumbles and Wendy's hotel just shows up out of nowhere.
Okay. Be careful. When you pinch Wendy's pennies, they pinch back.
What the fuck does that even mean? Wendy's Blitz Snarlton. So, this is where we see those Elvis Goombas from the box art. This level's not too bad, but here's the catch. There's 2 stories. If you die on the second story, you'll go back to the first. You don't want to fuck around too much. This is where the respawning enemies becomes a huge issue. Remember back when I talked about the Wigglers always respawning once after you kill them? Well, here the Goombas always respawn several times and they love opening doors. It's insane. You better get used to going back and forth. And you gotta do it all strategically because all the while, the timer's going off. Luckily the timer resets when you go to the next story, but the timer still runs on the first story even after you kill all the enemies until you get in the final elevator. And these Mecha Koopas, oh my god, fuck them. They're like the Dry Bones in the way that when you hit them, they get back up after a bit, but they can still hurt you while they're down. They're an obstacle, and if they're blocking a door, you gotta kick them out of the way. They suck, and they move in whatever direction you're facing when you jump on them, so you better jump the right way. This hotel sucks dick, and it's only the beginning. Let me introduce you to Wendy's pennies. If you pinch them, they pinch back. They'll always run towards you if you're on their floor. They'll open almost every door they pass, and they're hiding in almost every door. Sometimes they set off chain reactions of letting each other out. You see, most doors you open have 2 coins inside, and if you don't grab them before they hit the ground, they sprout legs and try to kill you. It's unfucking believable how much the difficulty picks up here. It's gone from Big Bird to Mothra. Some of these levels took me on average 30 minutes to beat. And you know when you play too long and get impatient, you start doing worse and worse each time. Some of these levels feel impossible without the Fire Flower. Having one is like a blessing. These switching doors feel like a new issue all over again. I've begun to get the timing down and go to doors accordingly. As for the 2-story gimmick, at first it definitely seemed like an added difficulty, but it gets so much worse later on because not only do you have these incredibly difficult levels, but you have 2 of them in a row that you need to beat consecutively. There's so many things to keep track of, it's ridiculous. But let me introduce you to the worst shit I've ever experienced. Hotel 5, Stage 9. This level, I shit you not, took me over 2 hours to beat. It's fucking insane. There's so many things to keep track of. The doors opening, the flying Koopas, the coins, the elevators changing, the Mecha Koopas, the floor order, the time, and try doing that for 2 stories. And when there's so much going on, it's seriously not uncommon for things to come down to the very last second. Every move matters, and your thumb slipping off the D-pad can and will be the death of you. While playing this level, the audio glitched too. It only lasted until I died, but this audio glitch actually happened several more times in my playthrough. After almost 2.5 fucking hours, I was shaking. I was punching the couch, throwing the controller, screaming. But finally, after muscle memory pulling me through it, Jesus fucking Christ. I almost cried. I can't do this shit. Wendy's a bitch. She blows hearts that reopen doors and kisses that chase after you. Both will kill you, and they suck. I tried this over and over and over again, but I can't stand it. I need a break. So I called it a night and came back to it the next morning. But guess what? All my fucking data was gone. Yep, all of it. All lost to the depths of hell. I was distraught. I fucking can't. So I started playing all over again from the beginning, but maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I did something wrong. So what should I do?
If you need instructions on how to get through the hotel, check out the enclosed instruction book.
This book is a fucking joke. If you want the least helpful advice, here is your #1 source. If Mario grabs Toad, he gets an extra life. Where the fuck is Toad? If Fire Mario opens a door with a mushroom in it, the mushroom turns into Toad. No, it doesn't. Are you ready to check into Hotel Mario? I'm ready to check myself into a fucking hospital because I can't stand this shit. Hotel Mario isn't even a thing. There is no Hotel Mario. Here's something interesting though. You can play a previous stage by holding button 2 and moving left or right on the hotel screen, or hold up to visit a previously beaten hotel. Now what's this? If Mario looks for the right clues, he can overcome the Koopaling's traps. Well, I looked it up. Every hotel has a secret that once you find it, the whole hotel becomes a lot easier. If you remember, Hotel 3 had the candlestick and Hotel 4 had the boo cologne. Well, every hotel has one of these secrets, and the cartoon beforehand is supposed to give you a hint on what the secret is.
Bring a light? Maybe a Koopa will lend us his, if we persuade him.
But they don't actually hint on how to find it. It doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to figure out that, yeah, it's dark in here. No shit. Yeah, the boos are annoying, but how the fuck would I know to press button 2 in this exact spot to get rid of them all? What the fucking shit? So all those coins in Wendy's hotel? Well, you open this specific door in stage 5 on the first story, and then enter it. Then Mario cracks open the stomach of a living piggy bank and lets all her coin organs pour out. And then, and only then, will the coins stop turning into enemies. Holy shit, this is so much easier. What a dumb fucking dipshitted decision on the developer's part. Why the fuck was it that hard to find that secret? If I have to take a guess, it's probably because they expect you to go into every door, because sometimes doors have invisible items inside them or coins. But are you kidding me? It should be mandatory to find these secrets because otherwise you'll just be dying over and over again. If these secrets make the game so much more playable, it should be impossible to beat without finding these. Why are these levels still possible even without finding them? I just wasted so many hours of my fucking life. And there's no sign that that door was special. It's just a regular old door. Fuck this shit. And this is only the 6th hotel. There's one more of these. Wendy's still kinda hard, even without the coins, but what sucks more is that just like the rest of the hotel, her stage is 2 stories. So you gotta beat her twice. And if you get to the top, she runs after you, opening all the doors, so you better make sure to close those ones last. But once you kill her, all is well. Mario and Luigi did it. We're finally on to the final hotel. Out of nowhere, Bowser's Hotel appears. If Bowser's Hotel is harder than Wendy's, I don't know if I can do it. Yeah, that was fucking ridiculous.
This is it, Luigi.
Caesar's Palace. You know, all these hotels are spoof names based off of real things. Morton's Wood Door Hysteria references the Waldorf Astoria. Roy's Hard Brick Hotel references Elvis's classic Heartbreak Hotel. Larry's Chilton referencing the Hilton. Lemmy's High 8 Regency Hotel referencing Hyatt Regencies. Ludwig's Thump Castle referencing Trump Towers. Wendy's Blitz Snarlton referencing the Ritz-Carlton. Bowser's Caesar's Palace referencing Caesar's Palace, which is such a weird thing. All the other hotels have these goofy, evil-sounding parody names, and then Bowser's is just about seizures. Like, they were coming up with names, and they were like, what's something nobody likes? Ah yeah, seizures. Nobody likes them. Anyway, Caesar's Palace is the only hotel in the game to have 15 levels instead of 10, and this hotel is where the enemy spam comes to fuck you. Every enemy in the game shows up in this hotel, and just for good measure, every so often, a fireball gets shot out of the wall. It is a fair gimmick though. There's some warning smoke, and you can duck or hide in a door to avoid it. Probably the most balanced gimmick of the game. Just like the previous hotel, every stage has 2 stories, and that can be a pain in the dick sometimes. You know what's the real pain in the dick of this hotel though? The enemy respawns. They go crazy with it here. Every single enemy respawns what feels like a minimum of at least 3 times. Because of this, you're gonna be going back and forth and up and down trying to keep all these doors closed. Give a warm welcome back to Pat the Bat because he is here to absolutely destroy your life. Since he respawns at the bottom of the screen, you'll constantly find yourself at the last door needing to go all the way back to the start to clean up his mess. And remember, all the doors are out of order, so you still have to pay attention to that. Every enemy is popping out of every door, and by the time they're all closed, you'll always be on your last couple of seconds. This hotel is no joke. You gotta use every second wisely. Now look at this. There's fire everywhere. For the longest time, I thought I wasn't allowed to touch the fires, but eventually I accidentally jumped into one and realized that they were just part of the background. Another issue that plagues this game from start to finish. You know what other issue still plagues this game? Hitting the wrong button. Still up to the very last hotel, I keep pressing the wrong button sometimes, resulting in my death. It's a testament to how shit this control design is. I can't describe enough how much the enemies don't give a shit. It doesn't matter if you just close that door. Someone's gonna come right out and ruin it. Fuck you. You don't like it? Too fucking bad. Close it again, bitch. By level 5, every floor is shooting fire, and it's a consistent obstacle. But nowhere near as much of a nuisance as literally any enemy you can encounter. Just when you think it couldn't get any more ridiculous, someone pops out of nowhere to fuck you. Let me introduce you to level 6, a prime example of how this game makes no sense. I was at this level for about half an hour when I started developing my own pattern. I found that if you leave the door in between the first Buzzy Beetle going by and the Dry Bones coming, then you jump at this exact spot twice, you'll immediately power up to Fire Mario. I have no idea why. There have been times in the past where I got a power up and I didn't know why, and I think it's because some spots on the map have these invisible power up spots that let you quickly become Fire Mario. If I had to guess, I think it might have been put there by devs when testing, because it makes no sense and there isn't any mention of powering up this way in the manual. Eventually I realized that you can just jump there whenever to get power-ups. Well, good to know, because the fireballs kill literally everything, even the fireballs. The enemy span in later levels gets so ridiculous, you just need a fire flower to get through them. There's not enough room to jump anywhere, and if you wait too long for the opportunity, you'll just run out of time. So if you lose your fire flower, you're going to want to go back to a previous easier level and pick one up. For me, whenever I need one, I just head back to level 6 and use that invisible power-up spot. My favorite levels in the whole game are these one-off levels where all the enemies are the same and you have to make your way around trying to avoid them, like here in stage 10. They're usually pretty easy, but I find them the most fun. Okay, so we're in the final 5 stages of the game. This is where shit gets really real. There's no fucking around. You better have your shit together because you need to be good to get past these stages. Enemies popping out of every door, you don't ask questions. It's not even bullshit anymore, it's just gameplay. That's how you train your mind to think of it. Since we've made it this far, is there anything I like about this game? Well, I like a lot of the art. Many of the backgrounds are really cool looking, as is the map screen, and the sprites, even though they don't really look like the source material, are pretty fun looking. I'd also say that the music is pretty good. But let's put that aside for a second because we're on stage 14. Wigglers. Remember these guys? They're back, and they still respawn twice. It's not even worth leaving the floor. Just wait until they respawn and kill them again. Sometimes they won't respawn though unless you leave the floor, so you gotta leave, then let them spawn, then come back. The better move is to just get a fire flower and come back because they're a one hit with the fire flower. Going back to level 6 to get the fire flower has been a nice way to make these levels easier, but every time I do this, it takes so fucking long to scroll through these menus. Why was selecting a level done like this? And you gotta do this every time, to and from, but it's worth it once you finally beat that stage you've been stuck on. Here we are, Bowser's barbecue room. Here he is. He's got a huge fucking dome. He's pretty annoying with the doors, but he's really not too big of a threat. Your biggest worry is these bolts of lightning he shoots. They're pretty annoying. Once you get all the doors though, the mask comes off and it's revealed that it was just Iggy wearing a mask. That's why Iggy doesn't have a hotel, not because the devs ran out of time. Going up. There he is. Bowser. I immediately die. He's pretty tough. Definitely the hardest boss by far. He's constantly opening doors, and he'll open every door he passes. He jumps from floor to floor at will, and has a huge hitbox. He'll throw down bolts of lightning, spit fireballs, and he'll even attack you while you're inside a door or an elevator. He just rips you out for being a fucking pussy. He's a pussy too, though. You can jump on him to knock him out for a bit. It took me a while to realize that, because why would you be allowed to do that on him, but okay. After about 40 minutes, it happened. It's all over, thank fucking Jesus. We saved Peach, we get kisses, you're the best player ever. Well, that was Hotel Mario. What a fucking shit show. I have so many questions for these people. They're all in hell now. It was a ride, and there's a lot to be said. I think there is fun to be had, seriously. I can look back upon my playthrough and say I had some fun playing. There's a lot of bullshit that drags this game down though. Just to name a few: enemy spam, enemy respawns, barely findable secrets, unexplained power-ups, dumb fucking level switching, occasionally shitty hitboxes, enemies popping out of nowhere, bullshit physics, inconsistent difficulty, naming errors, control design, confusing backgrounds, and my favorite, shitty hints that don't help at all.
Get the hint?
Even with all that bad, there is some stuff I liked. The music and sound design, the art and illustrations, the general gameplay when it worked, and yes, even those cutscenes. Even though they're so stupid and goofy, I think I've come to unironically love them. I think the devs knew what they were going for, and something really silly like this is what it was. There's something about the lines and delivery that always makes me smile.
Get off of my cloud!
Besides this though, you really can have fun with this. Why not share the fun? That's right, don't forget 2-player mode. What is it exactly? Well, it works like any 8-bit or 16-bit Mario game. You and another player take turns playing, switching control after every death. You don't use 2 controllers though, you just pass one back and forth. It's honestly a bit lazy. The Luigi sprite is just green Mario despite Luigi looking different in the animations. And they didn't even switch up the voice clips. It's still Mario.
Gotta be quick!
Well, after it all, that was a lot of suffering, but I think I'm glad I played it. There's a lot Phillips got wrong, but it still has a lot of the charms of a Mario game. It even has a warp in the 3rd hotel.
Uh-oh!
If you have a CDI, this is definitely worth playing through at least the first 2 or 3 hotels. It's fun when it works, and it's frustrating when it's bullshit. Because of how poorly the CDI and Hotel Mario failed, at least 2 other Mario games planned for the CDI were cancelled. But maybe that was for the best. Hotel Mario is constantly revered as one of the worst Mario games of all time, but I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. Even with its faults, there is some fun to be had, but I think most people won't remember it in that way. As long as we have YouTube poops and online internet culture, we'll always have a semblance of the game that kicked off Nintendo's venture into traditional disc-based gaming consoles almost 10 years before it started with the GameCube. I'm Bearman, and I've been wasting your time. Thanks for watching.